Hello, my name is Monica Commander. This video is the recording of a PUM remote advice coaching for the Kousba municipality in the north of Lebanon. The topic is vermicomposting for small farmers in order for them to use the organic waste of their farm for the benefit of the soil. The coaching consists of weekly video conferences in August and September 2024. This part is about vermiculture and special source materials, and today we talk about waste materials from the olive oil production. In this episode, I discuss the direct composting, which follows directly the previous video conference. Here you see an olive yard in the Kousba municipality in the north of Lebanon. I took this picture from Google Maps. Okay, the olive oil production waste consists of several different materials: wet two-phase olive meal pomace, semi-dry three-phase olive meal pomace, olive leaves, and fresh pruning from olive trees. Here we discuss the composting, the direct composting, slow, fast, and collective. We discuss here the aerated pile bin, the electrical tumbler, ventilated windrow, and machine-treated windrow. Vermicomposting in an aerated pile bin. We have seen this one several times before. Two-phase wet pomace is a green material with a carbon-nitrogen ratio of about 28:1. So what is required is some old dry chopped leaves and old dry prunings to balance the carbon-nitrogen ratio. If the pomace is wet, you can add roughly chopped old wood a bit extra to increase the porosity, the airiness. After composting, you can remove the old wood pieces at sieving and reuse them in the next pile bin. The pomace layers should be thin and best be mixed with a layer underneath to reduce the stickiness. Topping with a thin layer of gypsum, eggshell, lava meal, or kelp may be necessary to reduce the acidity. Consider also intermittent layers with, for example, goat manure as feed for the worms. Here you see a pile bin as a variation of the one that Dr. Johnson has constructed with his wife Sue. Okay, well, there are some disadvantages for using olive pomace waste in this one. First of all, there is the seasonal problem. Right in the season, when you need all your labor, you need to make these pile bins. Besides, the smell may remain for about 2 to 3 weeks, attracting pests, insects, and animals. There is an increased risk of turning anaerobic, and that even gives you more labor to adjust the pile bin. And finally, there is an unknown interference of chemical remains with the worm health. So please pay attention to check the worm health after adding them to the pile bin. An alternative is fast composting, for example, in a hand tumbler. You can make compost in 4 to 6 weeks, and then after it may be ready for a follow-up by an aerated application, for example, in mulching. I have discussed this in other parts. Pay attention, however, that the hand tumbler is very labor demanding. So an alternative may be machine composting in machines that come in various price ranges. Beware, however, that the result in compost qualities may vary a lot. Here, for example, is an electrical tumbler. The one that is shown is of a high quality. It's fully automatic, adding sawdust pellets to adjust the carbon nitrogen ratio, and it adds water to adjust the moisture percentage. It also measures and adjusts the acidity. The price is a bit high. It's 80,000 euros. And it requires constant electrical ventilation. The compost, however, is stable, and the stable product you will have in about 4 weeks. The process capacity is about 1,400 liters waste per week, resulting in probably about 175 liters of compost per week. Okay, qualities of fast composting materials in this way, I assume they may be more or less like Dr. David Johnson described, and which I discussed already in the first video conference. If you do it fast, the risk is that the compost is still unstable, for example, in the hand tumbler. That unstable compost means that it can restart smelling, and it may start fermenting when stored with insufficient oxygen. So beware when you use the hand tumbler. Stable compost is allowed to be applied in the field all year round because it will not restart smelling and it will not start fermenting. The machine that I showed you guarantees that stability. However, it does not mean that the compost has an equal or a large variability of developed microbes. There may still be a few microbes that are present in abundance, whereas a lot of other microbes have yet to accumulate. Qualities of fast composted materials. There is a dominance of aerobe microbes, of course, because the process was aerobic, and protein breakers and complex structure breakers may still be there in abundance. Carbon breakers may not be that abundant yet, and many carbon structures may be intact. Further decomposition may be actively supported later on in maturing compost in, for example, a windrow system, a pile bin, or a winter bed, or in the soil, for example, after mulching. After fast composting, the palatability for worms, for example in a vermicompost bed, is unclear. But you can try. How about now the pomace waste of a collective oil mill? Then you may have this waste in enormous quantities. The first variation that I show you is an aerated winter composting, windrow composting. That means that there is a ventilation system installed for the aeration all the time, and so it's quite electricity demanding. On the left, you see an indoor system where there is protection against the rain. On the right, there is an outdoor system on concrete with a flow where the rain can flow off and be collected. Okay, in summary, so this system, an aerated windrow composting system, it is space demanding, both indoor and outdoor, and electrical ventilators are required. The advantage is that there is no turning of the piles, and that also means that smells may disappear after a thermophilic phase of 2 to 3 weeks. Disadvantages are that the ventilation system may be expensive and vulnerable, and it is quite demanding in terms of electricity, so it may turn out expensive. The alternative is the machine-treated windrow. The requirements for a classic windrow system for the hygienization is that for 15 days the temperature should be up to 55 to 70 degrees and the pile must be turned in that period for 5 times. These are the regulations in the USA. In the European Union it is formulated a bit differently, but if you read it carefully it comes down to more or less the same. Pay attention that this system is very labor demanding and machines are almost indispensable. And even though the separate machines that you may need are in itself moderately priced, one machine leads to the need for the next machine. Let me go into this. For example, the porosity of wet materials, because pomace waste may be too wet. Adding roughly chopped old wood to increase the porosity may interfere with the machine activity, depending on the machine that you have. So maybe here there is already a need for an intermediate step, which is sludge dewatering. There are many types of machines that can do that. Here you see a picture of a slanting separator that is quite popular, and it results in a moist content of about 45%. Next, you have the key machine, and I have shown here several types of machines for windrow systems for small farmers. First of all, there is the self-propelled forklift. If you go for this forklift, beware that you need a separate chopper to chop your materials. In the center, you see a moving type windrow turner. This one you can use if the surface where you use the machine is flat. On the right-hand side, you see a crawler type windrow system, windrow turner, which is more robust. In any case, next required, there are machines for harvesting and packaging the compost. The advantage of this windrow composting is that it's easy to handle for high volumes of material. It's easy to implement and operate the machines. There is a modern capital investment required, and you will end up with a good product stabilization. The ripening of the compost may vary. It can be less than 2 months, with frequent turning of the compost pile, and it can go up to 9 to 12 months when sporadic turning of the pile. Advertisements for these types of machines are often about composting speed, and for a small farmer that may be surprising. I come back to this. First, I'm going to point out the disadvantages of this type of windrow composting. First of all, it is space demanding on land for a concrete with fluid runoff collection. Outside, you also need a rain runoff collection, and inside you need roofing and ventilation. It is also demands investments for several types of machines. Maybe there is a machine necessary for the preparation with a sludge separator before you can use the turning machine. A turning machine is almost indispensable. Depending on the type of turning machine that you use, you may require a machine chopper. And maybe additional machines are necessary for a transport of the compost and packaging. An important disadvantage is that smells and dust may re-emerge every time this windrow is turned. This may attract pest animals and scavengers, and the dust may cause lung problems for the workers. If you want to remain friends with your neighbors, buffer zones for smells and dust are advised, and maybe they are even required by the municipality. In some cases, also legal permits may be required by the government. Anyway, if you choose this composting system, machine equipment and energy plan is advised. You need an investment outlook. First of all, define the purpose of investments in terms of qualities of the compost that you want from the system. And please don't buy electrical machines without a plan for the related machines that may need to follow. So, in summary, I advise a concrete plan, a coherent plan for the process from waste to application, a coherent description of the desired compost product qualities that you want, a machine and equipment purchase plan, a machine and equipment storage plan because you may need a barn to store them, a materials and compost product storage plan because maybe you also need a barn or something to storage that, and a plan to use the space for processing, including safe driving because you don't want any risk of accidents for the workers. I already mentioned that it all depends on the desired compost product qualities. And so you may wonder, what are the different types of qualities that you may desire? Here I give you two different desired compost product qualities from different perspectives, from the farmer's perspective and from a compost business perspective. From the farmer's perspective, compost is not needed in all seasons, so there may not be speed involved for them. Effectivity is what you focus on. However, for a compost business with a lot of investments in machines, efficiency of the machine for the use of the machine capacity may be very important. So for them, speed and efficiency may be important. From a farmer's perspective, good compost is hygienized at elevated but not too elevated temperatures. over 55 degrees Celsius, and it's processed very moist, 60 to 70%, to increase the biodiversity among the microbes. And you want it to be finished and moderately dry with a moist percentage of 45 to 50%. For the compost business, it may be very interesting to start at very hot temperatures, say 70 to 80 degrees for example, at least an hour, and then continue at lower temperatures. The compost may also be processed with an adjusted moist temperature and stabilized quickly at a moist percentage of about 35%. So it's more compacted and it's drier, which supports the stabilization. From the farmer's perspective, a farmer wants vital compost qualities with a lot of microbes, biodiversity, mycorrhiza, fungi, worms, etc. Whereas for a compost business, the compost quality should comply with the legal definition of installation compost, so it can be sold as a compost. However, be aware that installation compost is allowed to be dry and dusty and may contain unclear microbes composition. So I refer here back to the last video conference where I put up to consider a two-paired bridge partnership model to combine the interests of the desired compost product qualities if you want it all in one collective plant or unit. Okay, I finished this episode with saying, please don't forget the records book, note everything, the dates, amounts, observations and interventions, and discuss with your peers. The summary, the advice and references I do in the next episodes in which I continue this part, and then I talk about hygienization and chemostat. Thank you very much for your attention, and please continue with the next episode.